I'm just making this video to show you how I make a vest for the pattern of teddy bear that I use for making memory bears. So you're gonna have um, 3 pieces for the outside of the vest, and then you're gonna have 3 pieces for the inside. And I don't go by the instructions on the pattern because they're confusing to me and they don't make very much sense to me when I read them. So this is going to be the outside of the vest, and this is going to be the good side. I didn't cut the collar yet because there's the way the garment was designed. It's I just wanted to wait until everything's till this piece is sewn together with the lining. And so anyway, you're gonna have the 3 pieces for the outside. So when you cut it, you're gonna have you're gonna be sewing this good sides together this way and then this way. So I'm going to do that and then I'll be back. I'm going to be sewing just this seam right here on the side. So when it's going to look like that, and I'm going to do that to both sides. So we're just sewing right here, and then the rest of it will be still open. Okay, so that's what it looks like now. It's open. And the seams are here, and I'm going to do the same thing with the lining, and I'll be back. Okay, so I have 2 pieces now, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the right sides together. I'm going to line this up, and then I'll explain how I sew and where I leave the openings. Okay, so I don't know if you can see these lines here, but I made some lines where you're gonna sew. You're gonna leave the important part is right here by the shoulders. You're gonna leave these 2 areas open, and also these 2. You're gonna leave those open for now. You're not going to sew them shut, because if you do that, it won't work. What I'm going to show you won't work. So you'll see what I'm talking about. But you're going to basically sew along here all the way. And I nest these, or I don't nest them. I push the seams here open on front and back to try to kind of reduce the bulk. Well, I didn't there. I'm going to have to fix that. But on front and back, you're going to want to push these open so that there's not too much bulk here. And then you just keep sewing over. And then I leave an opening here. You're going to need an opening here for what I'm going to show you. So just leave a spot here open and make sure it's big enough that you're going to be able to work with it, because we're going to be turning this inside out. Then we're going to be doing sort of a weird, it gets complicated, it gets kind of confusing, but I'm going to show you what I do. So leave an opening here and make it big enough to at least get like your 4 fingers through there, and then keep going. So start down here again, keep going, and then all the way up to here, and then you're also going to sew right here where the armholes are going to be. So you're going to sew around here, you're going to sew around this one too, from here around back up. That's probably the hardest part is the armholes here. So I'm going to do that, and then I'll be back. Okay, so I've sewn the 2 pieces together now. So and I cut little notches here. Just make sure not to cut your stitching, but yeah, around the curves you just need to cut some notches, especially in this area, because there's going to be a lot of stress and bulk in that area. So I cut some notches here too, and around the curve here, around here, here, and then back around here, and then around the collar too I cut some notches. I'm going to cut these little corners off, not this here. So I'm going to do that, and I'll be back. Okay, so I cut the little corners here, just to reduce bulk. Just make sure you don't cut into the stitches. Now we're going to turn this inside out, which takes a minute because you're having to pull everything all through this little opening. So we're gonna turn it inside out through this opening here, and after that we're going to finish our vest. Okay, so I've turned it inside out, and I used my little turning tool here to poke out the corners, smooth out the curves here. So the hardest part's over. The next part's just not very intuitive, if I could learn to talk. It doesn't matter which side is facing you right now. What we're going to do is we're going to work through this turning hole here, and we're going to pull the tops of these shoulders here. We're going to pull both of these seams through this together. So I'm going to try and show that to you. Unfortunately, I don't have anything to hold this camera, but so what we're going to do is we're going to turn this way. Okay, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to reach through here. I'm going to reach through here. I'm going to poke my finger out of this hole here. I'm going to grab onto this, both of these, and I'm going to pull them through. I'm going to pull both of them at the same time through this hole. But that's as far as I'm going to go. I'm not going to do any more turning. I just need to get this part of the vest through the hole, if that makes sense to you. It doesn't look like it's going to work at first when you do this, but it works. So just I'm going to try to do this. I'm not going to be able to do it with one hand holding the camera. I'm going to see if I can position myself to show you guys what I'm doing here. Okay, so hopefully I can show this to you guys. So I'm going through the turning hole here, okay, and I'm going to poke my finger through the top of this open seam here. Now I'm going to take the top of this here, this open seam on this part. I'm going to take this and I'm going to grab it with my finger, and I'm going to pull it through, and just make sure I got every piece here. So it's in there, I see it, it's just not wanting to come out. So we're gonna pull that through here, make sure that everything's lined up, nothing's twisted. Okay, and so you can see here they're together now. So just try to line them up the best you can. And so now we're gonna just sew a straight line, straight stitch just right across the top here, just right here. we're going to do that, and I'll be back. Okay, so I sewed a straight stitch just right here, and now I'm just going to cut the corners here, making sure I don't cut into my stitches that I just sewed here. Just going to cut the corner off there, and I'm going to cut probably to like 1/8 of an inch from the seam here, just to reduce the bulk here. Okay, so now it's ready to get turned through again, and this is where the magic happens. So I'm just going to push that back through here, and hopefully I don't have any holes here. Everything's sewed together. And there you go. So, and it looks good from both sides. And that's done. So you're just going to do the same thing. So that side's finished. This side still needs to be done. You're going to do the same thing here. You're just going to reach through. And just grab on, pull it through. Make sure you've got both pieces there. Make sure it's not twisted. You're not twisting when you're pulling it through. You're just pulling it through straight down through that turning hole. Just make sure everything's still lined up and straight. Okay. And then we're just going to do the same thing. We're going to just sew a straight line, and then we're going to cut the corners, cut a little bit of the top here off, just not cutting into our stitches that we sew here, but just to reduce some of the bulk, you're going to want to cut a little bit from the top here too. And then I'll be back and I'll show you what we do after that. Okay, so I turned everything, both of these shoulder seams through. They're done now. And so all that's left for me to do now is just to sew this opening shut, and I usually just hand stitch that. You just turn in the seams a little bit here, and I just sew I forget what they call that stitch, ladder stitch. So I just use a ladder stitch like I would when I'm sewing a stuffed animal together after you stuff it. I just use that when I'm sewing this shut. You could use any stitch, I guess, but or you could just, if you wanted to, you could just do a top stitch around the whole garment here, the little vest. You could do a top stitch just for a decorative stitch, and just use that to sew this shut. Once you tuck in the seams here, about 1/4 of an inch, you just top stitch it over and then you're done. There is a part that I don't do with this vest in the pattern that I use. They have a collar piece that you can sew to the top here, and I don't add that just because I don't really think it does much for the vest here. I think it looks good without it. And I have used that before. I have done that. But what I do is if I want to put the collar on here, I just center it and I just hand stitch it to the top of it. I'm not sure what the pattern tells you to do, but I think it looks good without it, but I do think that the vest looks a lot better on the bear than just having a bear uh, sewn out of old clothes or whatever you're using. I usually make memory bears with these with this pattern, so I think the vest does a lot for the bear and makes it look a lot nicer when it's done. So that's how I sew the vest together. And if you want to see the a full tutorial on how to make the memory bear, um, Whitney Sews, I'll put a link for her channel. She does a really good job, fantastic job of showing you step by step how she makes the memory bear. I use the same pattern that she does. I just got it at Walmart. She talks about different patterns you can use, but the one she uses, I'll have to find the name of it. So this is the one Whitney Sews references when she's doing her memory bear. So you see what I'm talking about here, the collar. Um, on this picture, it does look nice, but it's embellished with some decorative border here they used, I guess. But I think it looks fine without that. If you want to do it, it looks nice too, but um, I don't think it does a whole lot for the bear. I think it looks fine without that. So that's the way I do it. But this is the A2115. I don't think that it's in print anymore. I think they reprinted it under a different name, a different number, but it was at Walmart, and you can probably still find something the same pattern at Walmart. I just think it's called something else now. I think it's under a different number, but it's the same exact pattern, I believe. So that's what I do to put the vest together. I just wanted to show that because I didn't see any other videos about how to do that, and I figured there might be somebody out there that wants to sew the vest for their bear. And the instructions in here are very I don't understand exactly what they're wanting you to do to put this vest together. It's hard for me to understand when I'm looking at the pictures and reading the instructions. So I think this is really easy, or relatively easy to understand, hopefully. But I would encourage you, if you're making a memory bear, it would look a lot better, I think, with the little vest that goes with it. And plus, you're cutting up the garments anyway. That's my thought process. Is you're cutting up the loved one's clothing. The shirts or whatever you're using is basically ruined after you do that. So you might as well use as much of it as you can. And if you have some left over from the bear, you can add a vest, and it does a lot for it, I think. So anyway, thanks for watching.